Hey guys, yeah, it's about 8:50 in the morning on this Saturday. Decided to do this before my mom, gets up and everything. But I wanted to talk about the whole situation with IDW right now. And I mentioned this yesterday. I was going to do it, do a video on it, and that's what I'm doing here. Um, First of all, I want to say this about what's going on with IDW. Um, you know, it I don't think it's going to affect the comics, as much as some people are fearing it might. It might affect them. I don't think it will. I think if anything, the comics are going to be fine because primarily the one that is getting talked about the most that might be affected, of course, is Sonic. And we know IDW has more than just Sonic under their licensing, when it comes to comics. We just their own original IPs or licensed IPs like Sonic, like My Little Pony, and so on. So I don't think, as far as like any comics being lost, I don't think anybody has anything to worry about. But I understand, the concern. I do understand that. I mean, a lot of us that followed the comic, the Sonic comic overall when it was under the Archie publication, there were various times throughout the latter years up until it actually happened that we were wondering whether or not the comic was going to continue. And, you know, fortunately, it continued up until a certain point. And I know a lot of people would come out and say that if it wasn't for the lawsuit that Penders implemented, if you will, behind the scenes, that Archie Comics apparently didn't have, actual official documentation to back up, hey, this is what Penders said and this is what he agreed upon. Yeah, that didn't help in the long run with the cancellation of the book. And as far as sales go, I think the sales were all right. They were kind of teetering at times, but they were still fine, with the book and everything. But, unfortunately, all good things have to come to an end. And again, like I said, a lot of people will basically put the blame on Penders in the lawsuit that he did behind the scenes, not just against Archie Comics, but against Sega, as well, and then by extension, EA's BioWare division for what they did. And basically, Sega just said, you know what, enough of this crap. You know, we don't want to deal with this anymore. Archie Comics, you've got too much baggage right now when it comes to this. We got to part ways. And that's what they did. And that's what they did. Even though stories were planned in both the main book and the universe spinoff, for the characters like Sonic and the Freedom Fighters going forward. But unfortunately, because of this, behind the scenes situation, that didn't come to be. But like I said, and others have pointed this out too, you got places like Archie Sonic Online and fans like Glitcher and others like Mobius Comics. Everybody's basically taking their own jab and, their own, I guess you could say, their own jab and their own, own way of storytelling to try to continue the comics in some shape or form. Whether it's continuing officially after the reboot, kind of continuing where Ian wanted to go, and everything originally, or continuing the story, but uh, before the reboot occurred and everything, or just doing a hybrid of both. You know, fans and groups, they're doing they're doing what they can, you know, to make this all a reality, and that's very much appreciated. The problem the problem though right now is there's a lot of fans of the IDW book that are starting to experience what a lot of us fans felt at that around those time frames. And I can tell you right now, Archie Comics, I guarantee you has gone through a similar situation. Yeah, they didn't delist themselves from the New York Stock Exchange, the NYSE. They didn't do that. But they still thrived. They still, thrived and survived and continued on, with, publishing the book and any other books they had, whether it was based on their original IPs or licenses. They continued thriving on and marching on, no matter what happened, financially behind the scenes. It wouldn't be basically until, like I said, and everybody points this out, the whole lawsuit with Penders. Now, if it was just a lawsuit against BioWare, and Sega for what they did with Sonic Chronicles, and that'd be fine. The comic would probably still be continuing even to this day. But because of the fact that he basically, I guess after discussing things with his family, decided, hey, I should get royalties for my characters, he started to go after Archie. And now, years later, as I've mentioned before and others have mentioned before, it seems that maybe his accusations of, hey, I'm owed royalties and all that are, completely false. And that he just made that up. And that there is now evidence out there that proves it. So, again, I can understand, getting back to the topic here, I can understand the fear. The only advantage IDW has, when it comes to surviving this, is the fact that basically they don't have to deal with the lawsuit. I mean, yeah, they're not on the they're not on the New York Stock Exchange right now because of the kind of blacking out and delisting themselves and everything, but we have to understand that the divisions that are being affected the most, and those being laid off from said divisions that are being affected the most, are movies and games. And for a company like IDW, let's be honest. Okay, let's be honest. These are divisions that, basically, I don't think, a publication like IDW should even be exploring, no matter how big or successful they've been. I mean, you have the money to have certain, franchise IPs licensed out to you for comic book publication. That's fine, but maybe that's the best direction for you to go, the best forte for you to go in. I mean, yeah, it's great you want to expand, outside of your comfort zone. It's great. Always, that's always something that people should, and companies should strive to do. Explore other avenues. Go outside the comfort zone and see what you can accomplish. I get that. I get that. I understand that. But for basically an indie publication, because that's how they're looked at, no matter how high they are on the totem pole of comic book publications, in North America, if not the world. IDW, like Image, like Dark Horse and others, is still looked at as an indie publication. An indie publication that should basically stick with what brought it to the dance, and that's publishing comic books, nothing else. Archie Comics, why do you think they've been successful, throughout the almost quarter century they've been around? Almost, well, I won't say quarter century, but near century they've been around. Why do you think they've been surviving? It's because they hardly have ever ventured in to the realms outside of comics. And when they do, it's mainly cartoons and the occasional live action. And when they do, make those crossovers, if you will, it's because they know they have an idea that might work. And that idea sometimes deals, or coincides with what's the hip trend at that time and still is to this day, like Riverdale. Riverdale's still going on. People probably thought it'd be done by now, but it's still going. It's in its final season, yes, but it's still going. Netflix has an Archie's movie coming out that was an India Netflix exclusive at one point. It's going to make its worldwide debut, this fall. And, I can't even tell you about, the animated stuff they've done in the past, like Archie's Weird Mysteries, the various spin-off movies that came from that. I think there was two, the Return to Riverdale movie they did for NBC, the new Archies, and even back into the 60s and 70s with the Archie show there. I mean, you look at how many times they've ventured outside of just doing comic books, and it's very few far and in between. And IDW, they've done that as well. They've gone out far, they've gone out and done a few shows here and there, or movies or games here and there. But the difference between Archie and IDW, and I'm not trying to say this to kiss up to Archie Comics, but the difference is Archie Comics was sporadic, exploration. They were sporadic. I mean, when they did the Archies, and then along with that, the original Sabrina cartoon, when was the next time they tried to tackle Sabrina? In the 90s. And not just with live action, but with an actual cartoon. They spread themselves out. They went in a hurry because the main focus they knew, which was the bread and butter, was publishing comic books. The thing is when you get down to it, ladies and gentlemen, when you get down to it, and just checking something, when you get down to it, sometimes you just gotta stick with what brought you to the dance. That's it. Stick with what brought you to the dance and go from there. And you'll be surprised at how successful you can be. I mean, and if you want to explore outside your comfort zone, that's fine. Explore outside your comfort zone. But don't do it all simultaneously or year after year or whatever. Take your time. Take your time and see what happens. Because if you go and do more than what you can handle, it's going to come back to bite you. And it's gonna come back to bite you in a way that could be financially devastating and could cause you to end up doing something like what IDW has done. But as far as it affecting the comic, the comic part division and all that, I think for right now that's safe and sound. And even if it does affect it, they can basically sell off their original IPs to bigger comic book publishers like DC and Marvel, if you will, or even Boom Studios or Dark Horse or Image. They could sell them off to there to be continued or be rebooted. And as far as the licensed IPs go, Hasbro, Sega, Disney, they could basically go and work out deals with Boom Studios, Image, Dark Horse, Marvel, DC. They can go and do that. And they could either do it to continue the book, where it's being left off, or have it rebooted. I mean, heck, they could even work something out with Archie again. And guess what? I know fans, would be surprised to, hear this, but Archie has a tremendous history with, let's say, Sonic, and they could continue the original book where it left off. They can continue Universe where it left off, and just to basically say, hey, we have no, ill will whatsoever, they can continue the IDW book where it left off. Because they've obviously had a good partnership with them before by republishing the Ninja Turtle Adventure stories and collections. So, that's something to, they could look into as well to help them financially get out of this situation if it comes to that. But right now, I don't think it will. I think the comics are going to be fine. I think the comics division is going to be okay. They might have to cut back on a few things, and they might have to, sell off of some of the original IPs, or even work out a deal to help sell off, or make a partnership with other publications to, to basically make a new home for the licensed IPs. They may have to do that, but I think honestly, we don't really have nothing to really worry about. We don't have nothing to really worry about as far as IDW's comic division is concerned right now. All that's really affecting job-wise, layoff-wise, and all that is the movies and gaming divisions, which again, I think they should have kept, the nose out of, if you will. Just stuck to what brought them to the dance. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys. What do you think about this whole situation with IDW Comics? Do you think the comics division will be affected eventually? Let me know in the comments section down below. And until next time, guys, I will talk to you all next time.